I told you we would be exactly on time. There for a minute, it was looking like we could be a few minutes late, but no, we made it 8 o'clock on the dot. So there you go. We have that to our word. So week one, done and over with. A lot of things happened, including a loss to Pitt by West Virginia. Not happy about it. And I call it a loss because I don't think Pitt won that game. I call it a loss. We lost that game. All right. So I have Mark Rogers, of course, because we're doing this on the Voice of College Football and the West Virginia channel of the Voice of College Football and Gold and Blue Dude. So we're doing the trifecta tonight. So we like to get an outside perspective on this as well. I call Mark outside perspective, but really, he's the leader of the gang, not just part of the gang. He's the leader of the gang. Mark, would you agree with that, or would you say no? Actually, Pitt was just the better team that night.
Oh boy, TBD. You're asking me to recall a game from
this. This is the spot right here. This is you.
It's over a week ago now. Yeah. I just remember it was an exciting finish. Whether West Virginia blew that game, I just felt so bad for the receiver that trapped the ball at the end of the game because, and I got to tell you that I agree with the reversal, but I wasn't as convinced as everybody else. Like I wasn't one of these, okay, you trapped it. I was like, wow.
The backside view is what I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that was incomplete. But from the front, which was the only replay they were showing us, I was like, that should be a catch. By the letter of the law, that should be a catch. But then whenever they showed the back angle, I'm like, dang it. Nope, that's not a catch. But it was still close. It was still very, very close. Great atmosphere. One of the best atmospheres I've ever been in. And I went to the Virginia Tech game last year in Morgantown. That was a great atmosphere, but that backyard brawl, I'm telling you, like that's something that even if you're not a West Virginia or a Pitt fan, you definitely need to experience that because it's just crazy. I mean, you have the third quarter. Of course, it's not on TV. That it would probably get taken off TV if they did put it on TV. But between the third quarter and the fourth quarter, they play Sweet Caroline, and of course, you're hearing two different versions, both pretty loud because there were a lot of West Virginia fans. And it's just something that you got to experience for yourself in person. And the one thing that I will say about JT Daniels, it is very different watching this guy in person. I was in the upper deck of the end zone, so I was getting the backside and the front side view, not the side to side, and it's a totally different angle. So what I saw many, many times was a collapsing pocket, and I'm like, oh, man, this looks like a sack. But JT Daniels, he has this sixth sense. Okay, he's not a scrambler. He's not a dual threat. But, man, his pocket awareness is filthy. That's the only word that I can think of to describe it. It is straight up filthy. Like, I'm sure those defenders got aggravated. I mean, they literally thought they had a sack, and boom, one step, and he's out of position. How does that happen? They have to be thinking that. He took one step, and now I can't get to him. How does that happen? So I was very impressed with his pocket awareness.
I just wanted to know the two different versions of Sweet Caroline.
Well, the Pitt version is the normal version. And the West Virginia version is the the doo-doo word that rhymes with Pitt. In sync with how they sing it. So you're hearing the right version, not gonna lie, that's the right version, and then you hear the West Virginia version at the same time coming at you, and it's almost like two different bands performing the same song, so you're hearing two different renditions at the same time. Very, very cool.
I'm sure it's a beautiful harmony to witness.
I didn't see one fight though. I did not see one fight. A lot of trash talking. Oh, my gosh. A lot of trash talking, but not one fight. So it seems like the physical hatred for one another, that's died down. I think they've kind of civiled it out. Trash talk, of course, is fair game. They're going to talk trash, big trash, but I didn't see anything physical. Nothing thrown, no batteries, no pennies, no shoes, nothing. So that was good.
If you see me looking around, if you see me jumping off every so often, I just walked in the door. Like I just walked in the door, fired up the laptop. I'm here, and so there's a few odds and ends that I need to pull together. So I'll continue to do that.
I
But
got you.
you know what the question I have for you is, and everybody else that's a West Virginia fan is, was the Pitt game more important, or is this game more important?
Pitt.
Okay.
Pitt.
All right.
Definitely.
So I would expect, based on rivalries, for that to be the obvious answer. But this is a conference game.
True. And I do think that technically, Neil Brown will be coaching for his job. Now, why I say technically is if he loses that game, I don't see how he retains the head coaching position after this year. I don't see it. Now, I don't expect Kansas to win, but going by the letter of the law, if he loses, I'm calling it. It's over. So I would say, he's coaching for his life. Now, I don't think it's in danger. I don't think his job is in danger because of this game, because I fully expect West Virginia to win this game. But if West Virginia did lose, not good for Neil Brown.
Just because Kansas is the worst team in the conference, so there's no way to consider that if they lose this game that they're going to be winning other games against better teams. Not that they're not going to win another game the rest of the season. That's not what I'm saying. But if they can't beat Kansas, then they're going to have troubles all season.
If you can't beat Kansas, you're not going to beat Oklahoma. You're not going to beat Baylor. You're not going to beat Kansas State. You're not going to beat Oklahoma State. You'll probably lose to Texas Tech. You'll probably lose to Texas. TCU, I know it's home. Maybe that's still winnable. I don't know. Iowa State, you're going to lose that game on the road. So this is not just, Kansas, the worst team in the Big 12, but you're looking at the mindset. Like this would totally throw off any type of morale that these players have. Like that would be a morale crusher.
If Vegas knows what it's doing, which I think they generally do, the spread's only 13.5. So that's still a substantial spread.
It started 16.5. So that's it's shifted because of the betting.
It's what, 16.5?
It started 16.5. So
okay.
It must have shifted
it's down to 13
based on the bettors.
I saw that today. So that tells me that, there are plenty of teams throughout the season that are 2 touchdown underdogs that win.
Right. Yep.
So Vegas is giving Kansas a shot.
Right. But how much does that shrink for the road team? 2 touchdown underdogs on the road. It probably shrinks a little bit more, but that's still putting some confidence into Kansas. So what that tells me, so the line started at 16.5, right? So let's see. I'm trying to figure out which way that would go. So that means that people are actually betting on Kansas, and that's why the line is shrinking.
Sure.
So I don't think that's really Vegas putting confidence in Kansas. I think that's Vegas trying to cover their rear ends because money's coming in on Kansas. And they're hoping to not lose a lot of money because what if West Virginia wins by 2 touchdowns? Then all those people that took Kansas in the 16.5 are going to win. You shrink it down to 13.5. Now all of a sudden you feel better about yourself. Okay, now if they win by 2 touchdowns, we still win. So that shift was definitely, and that's why I titled the video the way I did, because people are thinking that Kansas is going to pull the upset. I just don't see it. I really don't, especially based on what I saw on Thursday night. West Virginia moved the ball at will against Pitt. If anybody watched that game, we moved the ball at will. The problem was our receivers, for whatever reason, their timing as far as catching the ball was just off. It was off. I don't know what it was, but it was very, very off. Our running game was spectacular. That's why the West Virginia fan base is breathing down heavy upon the neck of Neil Brown whenever it was 4th and 6 inches, maybe even less. It might have been 4th and 5 inches. I don't know. but it was 4th and less than a foot, and we didn't go for it, averaging almost 6 yards a carry. And in his post-game press conference, he explained the percentages. We had a better percentage. We had a better chance of punting the ball and pinning them and getting them to punt back to us than getting that 4th down, which technically may be correct, but are you factoring in that the defense, this is in late 4th quarter, the defenses wore out? Are you factoring in that we had the momentum at the time? Are you factoring in that we're averaging almost 6 yards a carry? I think there's a lot of factors that he left out of that judgment call. And my suggestion to Neil Brown would be sometimes you have got to leave analysis and percentage out of it. Kuz's Corner made a video, and he used the term paralysis by analysis, which we all know by heart now. That's exactly what happened, paralysis by analysis. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut feeling. You had a chance to put the game away. If West Virginia gets a 1st down right there, at minimum, we can bleed another 3.5, 4 minutes off the clock the way we're running the ball. And even if we get another 15, 20 yards, that's a field goal, 10 points right there. So we're talking worst case scenario. Pitt gets the ball back with 3 minutes left on the clock, down by 7, or 3 minutes left on the clock, down by 10, versus like 7 or 8 minutes left on the clock, down by 7. So that's one call that I don't understand. I know he explained it, and he said he would do it the same way 1,000 times over if put in the same situation. And to me, that's like, well, you didn't learn your lesson then. You're not learning to coach in the moment sometimes. You can't always go by, because momentum doesn't work with percentages. Momentum lives outside of those percentages. So once momentum swings, you can throw those percentages out the window, unless there's some sort of algorithm out there that somebody's developed to factor in momentum, which who knows, maybe somebody has. But I bet you that he doesn't have that factored into all his analysis and percentages. So I disagreed whenever he called the punt on 4th and 6 or 6 inches. I still disagree with it, and I will forever disagree with that.
I would have to say that if there's anybody who has devised a formula that factored in momentum, until proven otherwise, I would be apt to call that person a moron. Because I don't know how you would possibly factor in momentum into a statistical formula.
Because there's different levels of momentum too. It's not all the same.
It's also an ambiguous thing that can't be necessarily.
Hold on. Before we go any further, let me remind everybody, please hit the like and subscribe button. That greatly helps this video. Whenever you hit the like button, and I see this time and time again on live shows that they don't explain why it's important to hit the like button. Whenever you hit the like, it helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm. And whenever that happens, the video gets suggested more people see it, more people click on it, and that's how you grow your audience. So we would greatly appreciate that. And if you have a question, comment, or a troll, trolls are welcome here too. Just let us know with the super chat. That's that little $ that you see on the bottom right-hand corner of the chat. Anything you put in that super chat, we will, as long as it's YouTube appropriate, we will throw it on the screen. We will read it. If it's a question, we'll answer it. If it's a comment, we'll address it. And yes, we appreciate your support so much that even if you're making fun of us, we will read it. That's how much we appreciate that, right?
Oh, we'll take it and read it.
Where's Touchdown Jimmy?
Where is he?
Touchdown Jimmy. We need you, buddy. We need you. How was your Friday, by the way?
My Friday was good.
Yeah, mine too. It was a little busy, but it's good. College football is on right now, so I'm living in heaven right now. I'm doing a live show with the voice of college football, Mark Rogers. Even talking West Virginia football. That's awesome. And to my right, I have Louisville at UCF on ESPN2 on my screen in my bedroom. So, I mean, life is good, man.
I
Life
got
is
it right
good.
there.
Yeah,
I got it right
absolutely.
there. I believe it's tied 7-7.
So let me ask you, I'm kind of getting the vibe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I'm kind of getting the vibe that you think that there's not just like a snowball's chance in HELL for Kansas to beat West Virginia, but you think that that's a real possibility. Am I reading you wrong?
I'll give Kansas a 10 to 15% chance of winning.
Okay. I mean, I can. For some reason, I was thinking you would say a little bit higher than that, but 10-15 is right on the money. Actually, I wouldn't go any higher than 20, to be honest with you. So I'm definitely good with that. Vanity Rose, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, I know West Virginia had better ride the momentum of their two backs and run the ball. 100% agree. And tell that to Graham Harrell, by the way. Anything less than 40 attempts between the two of them is unacceptable. We're talking about, well, Donaldson the most, but Mathis, he's a good back too. And I've talked about this as well. I think Donaldson could be a Steve Slayton type of situation for West Virginia. And what I mean by that is when Steve Slayton was recruited, he was highly recruited, but at the same time, he wasn't able to win the starting running back. And he entered a game via an injury, and the rest is history. Well, with Donaldson, I mean, he was heavily recruited out of high school, but not superstar status, not the Gallagher guy type of status. So he was relatively a relatively unknown sort of name. And man, did he make a splash against probably one of the better front sevens we will play all year. He's the reason why our running game was so stinking good against Pitt. And Pitt has a pretty good run defense. In fact, their run defense is probably better than their pass defense. So I 100% agree with Vanity Rose. Hopefully Graham Harrell saw that, took it in, and realizes, hey, sometimes, if the best thing is running, then we need to run the ball more and shorten the game. And maybe that's what the defense needs as well. That's a win-win. You shorten the game for your defense. They're not on the field as much. And, of course, you're using what you're the best at, running, and you're lengthening the game for the opposing defense. They are on the field for a much longer time. So I 100% agree with that. I was not expecting West Virginia to be that good at running the ball because we haven't been good at running the ball. Even in Dana Holgerson's era, it was very hit and miss. I mean, I would say since at least Bill Stewart, we haven't been like super solid at running the ball.
Two questions, GPD. One would be that based on your opening comments about Neil Brown, it sounds as though you don't have the confidence in Neil Brown that you may have had before that game.
Yes. To me, I don't know. It just feels like, and I know I'm wrong. I'm just telling you my feelings about it. I'm sure I'm wrong about this, but to me, the way he did the press conference, it just made me feel like he didn't realize just how important that game was and how important that decision was. And he was like, I coach by percentages. I would have made the same call, 1,000 times over, 100% of the time, and stood by it. And I understand that, but like to me, that just comes off as like didn't really, I don't know, fully grasp how important that rivalry was. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm probably wrong about that. I mean, he's probably just saying what he needs to say, being the coach or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't like how that press conference went.
So my next question would be with, any aspect of the team, offense, defense, any of the personnel on either side of the ball, out of all the good that came out of that game, what leaves you concerned about the rest of the season?
Our receivers, JT put it on the money time and time and time again,
I
and
did see that. Yep.
I felt bad for Bryce Ford Wheaton because he was actually having a really, really good game until that unfortunate, through his hands and into the pick six. Rest is history. But those other receivers, Caden Prather, I was expecting him to have a monster game. He only had like 2 catches, so I'm like, were we not targeting him enough? What's going on with that? So, to me, my biggest concern is giving our best players an opportunity to shine when they need to shine. If that makes any sense. Okay, so first instance is that 4th and 6 inches. That was an opportunity for either Garrett Green to get up under center, because I know JT wasn't comfortable after that goal line push. Either get Garrett Green underneath the center or hand it off to Donaldson. Chance for them to shine and be a legend, basically. It was a chance for Neil Brown to become a legend. And it was like he just passed on it. So I guess that's my big, because it seems like it's almost like he trusts the defense too much, if that makes any sense. He's fixed, don't get me wrong, he has fixed the defense at West Virginia. Okay, I'm not going to lie about that. But in a war like this game lasted over 4 hours. I don't know if people realize this. I was exhausted. Even if we had won, I would have been exhausted. I would have been happy exhausted, but I would still been exhausted. So this was probably 3.5 hours in this game. There's 6 inches to get the first down, and you're asking your gassed defense because of percentages. Sometimes you have to trust the offense. So those would be my 2 biggest concerns. Trusting the offense in crucial moments and letting your superstars shine in crucial moments.
So I totally agree on, I think the analytics, the metrics, the percentages, all of that certainly is a place, and I believe in it. But you were hired as a head football coach at a place like West Virginia to make difficult decisions and to be able to take anybody that has a leadership position, whether you're running a company or whatever you're doing. Yeah, you need numbers. You need numbers because they tell us a lot. But then you got to be able to figure out, okay, how do we apply that to the situation?
Right.
Because to your point, even beyond momentum, you have different types of games. You've got, if that game's a 13-10 game where the defenses are just dominating and nobody's moving the ball, well, yeah, punt it away, punt them deep.
Away.
They're not moving the ball. But, man, we got a shootout. And the longer it goes, the more it's becoming a shootout. And like you say, the defenses are getting worn out on both sides. And, hey, we have a chance to convert what should be a play that you convert 80-some% of the time.
At least. Yeah. Go back to the basics if you're that concerned. I mean, get your quarterback, put Garrett Green, if JT Daniels, I know Garrett Green would have salivated at the opportunity. Get you two backs, winged behind the quarterback, and just push.
Yeah.
If you can't get 6 inches off a quarterback sneak with a couple of running backs pushing his rear end, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
you were probably destined to lose the game anyways. That's all I can say. If you can't get that first down, then you were probably destined to lose that game anyways. But I'm glad you worded what you said the way you did, because this was an offensive game. Both defenses were gassed. So I get his percentages, but you get that first down against a gassed Pitt, but instead you put your gassed defense back on the field. I don't care where the ball is. I don't care if it's on the 1-inch line. A gassed defense is still gassed. And the longer it goes, the more gas they get. At some point in the game, you have to rely on the offense to make a play. That is the biggest knock that I've had on Neil Brown since the beginning of time, since his coaching tenure started. And I applaud the dude. I thank the dude for fixing the defense, but you have got to start trusting the offense at some point in time, especially with the offense that I saw. And running the ball, I will forever call that 4th and guaranteed. That's just me. I'm calling it 4th and guaranteed from here and forever. I just know we would have gotten it. And I understand what happens if we don't. Okay. The only difference is field position. And I get it. It's a significant difference. But it's still a gas defense. And honestly, if they score from there, you actually have more time. Now, that's assuming that they score from, the 5-yard line or 10-yard line, wherever they started, which they did. So we have a direct comparison. But I know what he was thinking. We're going to stop them. We're going to get field position. But that's not a guarantee. You have to think about everything, not just the percentages. You got to think about momentum. West Virginia had it. You got to think about your defense, gassed. You got to think about what type of game this is, shootout. You got to think of the level of importance this game is, backyard brawl rivalry. And it's like he didn't factor all the intangible things what the intangible things are. I'm getting backed up on Super Chats. Hold on, buddy. Will Klein, thank you for the $10 donation, says, do you think Vanderbilt will be ranked by the time they meet Bama? That is a hard no, because I actually think that they get beat by Wake Forest now that Sam Hartman is back. So, but I mean, if they beat Wake Forest and keep winning, I'm not sure what week do they play Alabama?
Yeah, I don't know. But the answer is no, unless they play them next week and they pull off an upset. They're the same 13.5-point dog. Well, I know you said that the line was 16.5 on Kansas, West Virginia, but I saw 13.5 today, 13.5 on Wake and Vandy too.
Right.
Although Vandy's at home.
With Sam Hartman not playing, I would have actually chosen Vanderbilt, especially it being on the road. But with him back, I haven't seen anything in Vanderbilt. I mean, I know they blew out Hawaii, but Hawaii is terrible. We found that out. I mean, Vanderbilt maybe could sneak into a bowl, but Wake Forest is good enough to beat a bowl team. I mean, you're with Sam Hartman. But then again, hold on. Then again, I don't know how healthy he actually is. He's been cleared and all that stuff, but you still never know. AJ Padada, thank you for the $2 donation, says, what's the likelihood West Virginia goes to the ACC versus stays in the Big 12? I think it's very low right now. I've been talking to a lot of my sources and what's going on. And what's floating out there right now is antitrust lawsuits. And the ACC is heavily in that boat. And we're talking about, West Virginia go to the ACC wouldn't really affect that. So that's kind of reversed. But I don't know. The TV deal would have to go up significantly. And I hate that. I think that's a little greedy on West Virginia's part. Because, I mean, you're choosing money over fan interest. If there's a choice of, hey, do we stay or go to the ACC? If there's an actual offer on the table and you turn it down, then you're really turning the fans down. So I would say that depends on the ACC's interest, which they've been interested for over a year. I will tell you that for a fact. The sources that I've talked to who are very close to the situation, the interest is there. I'm just not sure how much of a factor Notre Dame plays into that, because every time that it's mentioned to me, Notre Dame is always thrown into the conversation. And it looks like Notre Dame is going to stay independent. So if it hinges on Notre Dame, then I would say it's probably next to nothing. So take that for what it is. Jimmy Touchdown, there he is. Thank you for the $5 donation, buddy. Was on the NC State campus today. Bless your heart, buddy. Was told West Virginia is a lock to the ACC. Telling you, people.
So
okay. Marshall is coming to as a travel. Okay, that was a troll. Marshall is coming to as a travel partner. Thoughts, Marshall over what? Yeah. See, now he went down a big time rabbit hole.
Jimmy Touchdown. Who are you talking to on the NC State campus? A bunch of co-eds?
Right.
I don't think they.
And Marshall coming to as a travel partner. No thoughts. Thoughts. No. Which makes me believe that West Virginia is definitely not going. And Marshall over Notre Dame big. 3 no's in a row. That's all I got for you, buddy.
To answer the Vandy question,
yes, I do have a cricket, and I can't find him. I didn't know that my microphone was picking him up, but apparently,
that's probably me. I
no,
got crickets way off into the distance.
I got one too. I think he's
they're
inside
out
too.
there.
I can't find him.
They're out there. I got my patio door open, and they're out there. So that might be.
Well,
me
I think
too.
mine's inside, and that's why the mic.
Oh, I got you.
But I didn't realize it was that loud. So yeah, it's both of us probably. It's both of us. Quick update on the game. UCF is up 14-7. Something is under review. I did not catch.
There was a fumble.
Who fumbled?
Louisville had a long run, and they fumbled at the end of the run.
Gotcha.
UCF picked it up.
Yep.
Yeah. So Vandy, Wake Forest on Saturday, then Northern Illinois on the road before Bama. So they could be 4-0 going to Alabama.
So who after Vanderbilt, or who after Wake Forest?
Northern Illinois.
And then after Northern Illinois?
Bama.
So they'd be 3-0?
4-0.
4-0. Who have they played?
They're 2-0. They beat Hawaii.
Oh, they beat Hawaii. I keep forgetting Hawaii and Elon. Yeah. Okay. I will say this: if and this is a big if Vanderbilt beats Wake Forest, I do think they get ranked, because I think they'll. Okay, well, we thought that blowout of Hawaii was a fluke, but they just beat a ranked Wake Forest with Sam Hartman starting quarterback. I think they would get ranked right after beating Wake Forest, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I got to say I'm out on the rankings. I think the rankings are
foolishness,
a joke at times. So I got my own.
Well, okay. Hold on just a second. So the other day, I believe it was on Tuesday. So the AP polls came out on Monday, right? And I did a live show on Tuesday because I was still driving back on Monday. And I usually do a video right when they come out, but I was so tired, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to do a live reaction.
Yeah.
And I went up the poll. I got to number 12, and I was like, number 12. And I saw Florida. I was like, they go from non-ranked all the way up to number 12 because they beat number 7 Utah, who was only favored 2.5. It was at home. It was basically a pick 'em. To me, honestly, it looked like a setup. Like, if Florida loses, oh, well, it didn't work. But Florida wins, oh, man, we can jump. Utah's number 7, so, this validates it. We can put them close to the top 10. And then if they beat Kentucky, which they probably will, all of a sudden Florida's going to be a top 10 team.
What's wrong with that?
I don't believe Florida's a top 10 team, especially with 2 games out of the gate.
Well, if Florida beats Utah and Kentucky, who in the nation is going to have a better resume than Florida?
I mean, that's true, but the way the schedule started, though, was 2 home games against 2 high-profile opponents with great home. If it was 1 away and 1 home, I would actually probably agree with it. But I don't know. It just seems like it's set up in a fashion to where Florida has a lot to benefit from it because of how, both of those teams are ranked. Utah in the top 10, right? And they're both home games. I don't know. Just something makes me think that they're trying to set up a big-time showdown between Tennessee and Florida. They want that to be, because now Tennessee's ranked, and I agree with that. And to be honest with you, whenever I did my video on my new top 25, I did have both Tennessee and Florida ranked, but I had Florida at number 23 or something, and I forget what I had Tennessee. So I'm okay with both of them being ranked. I just thought from non-ranked to 12, and I also agree with Florida being ranked above Utah. I agree with that. I thought Utah should have been dropped further because, once again, they go on the road and lose to an unranked team.
Yeah, but they're unranked based on what?
Who knows? What are these rankings based on? I'm trying to find some sort of consistency.
There you go. That's my point.
Good point. I guess I'm fishing in the sea of inconsistency. Is that what this
You'll
is?
keep fishing too. It's an endless sea.
Thanks for, you know what? I might be able to sleep well tonight now that you explain that, because you don't have to make sense of the AP poll because it's inconsistent, so it's not going to make sense. I understand it. Man, life-changing, man. Life-changing. P Digits, thank you for the $5 donation. Are you going to another West Virginia game this year, Golden Blue Dude? If so, which one? Go Tigers. I'm going to try to go to the Oklahoma and Baylor home games. I'm going to try to go to both of those. We'll see. As long as we don't like going down the – because here's the thing, and I know people are like, well, you're not loyal if you're basing it off of success. Well, here's the thing. I live in the upstate of South Carolina. That trip to Pittsburgh alone was around $700. Trip to Morgantown is not going to be quite as high simply because of the ticket price, but you're still looking at a $500 trip. And, you know, if they're in the crapper, I don't want to spend $500 to watch a team go down the crapper. So, yes, it would depend on, you know, how they look. And, you know, if I want to see that product on the field and spend $500 to see that product on the field. AJ Panetta, I agree. He says top 25 ranks don't get accurate till week 4, in my opinion. Probably later than that, to be honest with you. But what week does the playoff polls come out? Like week 7, week 8? Or is it later?
It's week 8.
Yeah, I thought it was week 8, something like that.
Yeah, it's around October, 15th, 20th, whatever week that is, something in that range.
And even that's not totally I mean, it's definitely better than preseason's just ridiculous. Week 1, week 2 is still fishing. Week 4, maybe you're starting to get on the right track and figuring out the algorithm. I don't know. But even the first week of the playoffs sometimes looks totally different from the end. So, I mean, there is a little sprinkle of unpredictability in there as well. So you just never know. Shoelace Sooner says, hello, football fam. What's up, buddy? This is one of the bigger football families, so we're excited to have you here, for real. And thank you for supporting the channel as well. Awesome, buddy.
So I'm guessing, Chris, that based on what happened in the Big 12 in week 1, that didn't give you a whole lot to go on. It didn't give me a whole lot to go on. Everybody played. West Virginia is the only team that played a legitimate team, really good game. Nobody else played anybody. The only other Power 5 game was TCU, Colorado. Colorado is one of the worst teams in the country. This week, though.
But about TCU, I do think they're a little bit better than what I thought. I thought TCU had the chance of being the worst team in the Big 12 because I was expecting Kansas to take that slight step forward and win 4 or 5 games. And I was expecting TCU to go through a major shift, a major adjustment year. I'm not too impressed with Sonny Dykes. I mean, he's put out some decent offenses, but nothing consistent. I know it's Colorado. They're terrible, but it was a blowout road win, so they could be a little bit better. That's the only thing that I can decipher out of the Big 12 in week 1.
Yeah, I couldn't go on anything. It was the only conference where I didn't think that there was any real read. The SEC had a great week. The Big 10 had a great week. The ACC was kind of a mixed bag, some real highs and lows. Pac-12 was generally bad outside of Oregon State and Arizona, of course. But
I think Oregon State could win the Pac-12.
Yeah, they could. They could. But this week in the Big 12, Bama, Texas, Missouri, Kansas State. There's a nice little matchup that not a whole lot of people are going to talk about, but that's a nice mid-tier Big 12 SEC matchup.
Oh, the Missouri and Kansas State fans, they are chirping on Twitter.
Yeah,
I mean, big time. That's a
that's
former Big 12 rivalry.
Now, most
years
years
they're yiked up.
most years Arizona State, when they have a decent team, going to Oklahoma State would have me a little bit more intrigued. But another Power 5 matchup, Arizona State, Oklahoma State. And then the one that, well, Iowa State, Iowa, there's another one. Obviously, that's the traditional rivalry that gets played every year, and Iowa's won 7 consecutive years. And then a group of 5 matchup for the Big 12 here. That's an interesting one. Houston and Texas Tech. Texas Tech was the only team to beat Houston in the regular season last year. And then what I think, if I could only watch one game in the Big 12 this week, of course, we got the one conference game. So take Kansas, West Virginia. In a sense, that's the most important game because it's a conference game. But I'm looking at, trying to measure the Big 12 up against everybody else. Baylor and BYU.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah, definitely a good one. I do think that Baylor's going to be more reliant on their defense this year because their offense is going to be very, very young. They're going to have a strong offensive line for sure, but there's a lot of, and I'm not saying that they're going to be, not very good. They're going to have a lot of athleticism and speed, just a lot of inexperience on the offensive side of the ball. And I know the starting quarterback straight up beat the starting quarterback from last year. I'm like, my gosh, he must have been like really good to beat the starter. And of course, the starter ended up transferring. But there is a lot of youth, and sometimes when you get into some of these bigger football games, that can play a factor into this, especially on the road. If you're not Alabama, that is.
Yeah, when you bring Bama going to Texas,
they have no hope.
Texas is unlike anybody else. They're just like their own deal.
Yeah, they have their own gravitational pull.
That's a good way to put it. Because can you think of another school? And I'm going to answer it for you. No, there's no other program. There's no other team that has that much talent on one roster and nobody's accomplished anything. Like nobody has that much talent and nobody's accomplished anything.
I cannot figure it out. It's like, are they just not trying on the field? What is going on? Are they using like, when you play a video game and there's like 100% bar and sometimes you're only at like 50% or 60%. Is their bar like are they only using 60% of their ability? I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's baffling. And AJ Padetta says Texas is not back until proven otherwise. And I don't think they will prove otherwise. So, yeah, they are not back. I mean, think about how it would feel to be a Texas fan. I mean, one of the biggest brands, considered a blue blood for sure, has all the resources in the world, should be able to take full advantage of this NIL. They have massive boosters, over 100,000 seat stadium. They can literally buy any coach that they want, except for Nick Saban, maybe Dabo Swinney as well. Kirby Smart. Okay, 3 coaches they can't buy. But bottom line is they have all this resources, and they went 5-7 last year. And the patience there is non-existent. If you're wanting to build a football program, Texas is not the place for you. You need to win immediately, within 3 years, or you're gone. I strongly, 3 or 4 years. I strongly disagree with them firing Tom Herman. And the excuse that I keep hearing is, no, Tom Herman was cancer in the locker room, bad fit, collided with fans, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, in this day and age, with Twitter, Instagram, blah, 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 I did not hear, I mean, you hear the normal stuff of, whatever, had an argument and, normal stuff. I didn't hear anything excessive that I was like, oh, man, this guy is a problem. I think what happened was he overachieved when he had the 10-win season. The next year, took a slight step back, 8-5, and then COVID year, 7-3. That's actually really good for a COVID year. So, is there something that I don't know about him that happened? I guess is what I'm asking. because otherwise that firing makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I've heard from Texas people that he didn't make a whole lot of friends there. You know, he didn't treat players well, that sort of thing. Okay.
Then why didn't we see it on Twitter and stuff? Usually when something like that is going on, like it in this day and age, you hear something from, even if it's like he said, she said, she said, he said, he said, she said, you hear something.
But to your point, his last season there, they go 7-3. Their last regular season game, they lost to Iowa State. I remember watching this entire game. They lose to Iowa State on the last weekend of the season. They lose in a last-second field goal to a team, Iowa State, that played in the Big 12 championship game, won the Fiesta Bowl, finished in the top 10 in the country, and they lose. Like, Texas turned the ball over. It wasn't Tom Herman's issue. You know, Ellinger makes a bad play. I forget the situation. They turn the ball over. They lose the game. Otherwise, they're playing the Big 12 championship game. So they come that close to playing in the Big 12 championship game his last year, and he gets fired. And they win a bowl game by 5 touchdowns.
Yep. What makes it make even less sense was the hiring of Steve Sarkisian.
I agree with that.
He had nothing in his coaching career to show, hey, I can take a blue blood and bring it back to glory, other than he was an assistant coach of Nick Saban, so he's going to be a good one. Yeah. That was, to me, this just screams one of the dumbest decisions as far as firing and hiring a coach. And plus, not to mention how much money they gave Tom Herman to leave. I mean, this is one of the all-time biggest bonehead decisions I've ever seen by any university.
We have all sorts of examples of guys that are really good on one side of the ball as coordinators. Being a coordinator and being a head coach, 2 entirely different jobs.
Yep.
You're a coordinator. You're a football guy. That's all you're doing. X's and O's, personnel, figure it out, scheme, coach up your personnel. You're a football coach. You're a head coach at a place like Texas or anywhere, West Virginia, anywhere. Sure, you're a football coach because that's what got you there, but you're a fundraiser. You're a talking head. You're a leader of a organization. You're a figurehead. You're a communicator. You're the guy that sets the culture, the mood, the vibe, the whole direction of the program. It's just a completely different job. And just because Steve Sarkisian can draw up beautiful plays doesn't make him that. Now, I might be proven wrong, but I was exactly in the same boat as you when he was hired. I was like, okay, let me add this up. This guy was at Washington, and we've seen from other coaches going all the way back to Don James in the 70s, you can win at Washington. You can win big. They've won national championships there in the past. Chris Peterson, most recently, is going to a playoff. Okay.
Oh, UCF.
Yeah, just had a big play.
Oh, touchdown. Sorry.
They're starting to put some points on the board.
I get excited. Through the house.
So he wasn't better than his predecessor at Washington, and his successor did better. USC, again, same thing. The guy before him did better. The guy after him did better. Like, I'm not seeing anything on the resume that warrants a job like Texas. Maybe warrants a job at Texas Tech, or warrants a job in the Mountain West somewhere to show that you can coach, and then maybe you can elevate after that. But, go coach at Utah State or, Tulane or somewhere and win for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and show us that you can run a program, and then you may get elevated a la Billy Napier or somebody like that.
Oh, it was called back.
Got called back, huh?
Yep. But I agree with you. Whenever that happened, I'm like, I literally tried to figure out why you would do that. The only thing that I can think of that even sort of makes sense is they knew that they were headed to the SEC even back then, because these deals do not happen like that. I mean, they had been talking for months and months and months. and Steve Sarkisian was the right-hand man of Nick Saban. And they almost thought like West Virginia, because what West Virginia did was they brought in Dana Holgorsen, who was a Big 12 guy, and they thought that would help West Virginia ease into the Big 12, having a Big 12 type of coach. So maybe Texas thought having a coach that's familiar with the SEC would help them ease into the SEC. Like they thought way too far in advance. Like what about the years leading up to the SEC? Are you for certain that this guy is going to win games? I mean, because year 1, 5-7, apparently you were wrong. So I'm not saying that's what they were thinking. What I'm saying is that's what makes the most sense to me. And if that is the reason, that's one of the stupidest reasons I could think of.
I just have a few things I'd like to get across to everybody before we head out. I got about 10 minutes. I don't know how much time you have. Certainly, TBD, it's your deal. It's your stream. Take it as long as you'd like, but I'm going to do a call-in show right after this. Number one, we got a West Virginia channel, folks. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, so please subscribe to our Voice of College Football West Virginia channel. Number two, I do have a call-in show coming up at 9 o'clock, so give me a ring. We'll preview week 2 or anything else on your mind. And then thirdly, we've got a West Virginia post-game show, courtesy the guys at Country Roads Podcast.
Nice. I like those guys.
Yeah, so those guys are going to do a post-game show for us.
I got a question. So since you're having a call-in show on your channel, how do I drop this? Do I need to end it and start another live show?
You just keep rolling.
Okay.
Yep, just keep rolling.
I didn't want to interfere with you.
No, I appreciate it. No, we can keep rolling. I found that out last year by trying to air that. Wow. I don't know what the limit is for number of live streams that you can do on one channel at the same time. It's like at least 3, maybe 4.
That's pretty good.
I've had all sorts of post-game shows running into each other, and they just YouTube.
So I can be like, hey, go check out Mark real quick. You can come back, go check them out again. You can come back, go check them out again.
So it's all good.
That's freaking awesome, man. That is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I was concerned about that last year, but that was a good deal.
UCF lining up for a field goal, so it looks like that penalty did. Well, at least it at least took off 4 points. They're lining up for the kick, and hold on. It is no good. Wow, that penalty really hurt UCF. That took an entire touchdown off the board.
Yep.
Wow. And Louisville's bad. They should not be in this football game right now. I'm sorry.
Well, they were bad last week, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think UCF is a good team, so I think there was a couple big plays that unhappened, and here we are. So I think UCF will have a couple big plays that will happen, and that's when it'll open up.
This was the game last year, UCF Louisville. They played at Louisville. It was a great game. It was like a shootout. And it was, number one, the game that Dylan Gabriel got hurt and knocked out for the rest of the season.
Yep.
And it was also, I forget the sequence of plays, but it was a crazy back and forth where you thought Louisville was going to win, and then they turned the ball over with like 20 seconds left. And it was a crazy back and forth in the last minute. And UCF scored the game-winning touchdown.
Oh, yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah.
That was a really good game. And that was probably the start of Louisville. I mean, they didn't have like the worst season ever, but I was expecting Cunningham and Louisville to finish like behind Clemson and NC State and have like 9-win season type of year. And then that game happened, and it kind of just threw all that off. I firmly believe if they would have beaten UCF, that would have happened. Because the offense was set to take a major step forward last year. But that's why they play the game, right?
Yeah.
Hey, before you get out of here, final thoughts on Kansas, West Virginia. Who you got and keys to the game real quick.
Well, I can't say I got anybody except I'm going to pick West Virginia to win the game.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to cover the spread, but I tend to lean in that direction. I tend to lean in the 38-17 kind of range, something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the offensive line pass protection for JT Daniels, him continuing to work with his wide receivers and then getting on the same page because.
Well, Kansas front seven is going to be nothing like Pitt's. I mean, that's going to be a significant step backwards. So I think he's going to have a lot of time to throw, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But, like you say, there's some noise out there that maybe Kansas has a shot. And I'll give them a puncher's chance at 1 in 10.
There you go.
Something like that. It's funny. The last thing was I noticed that SEC dog in here, he dropped the exact name that was coming out of my mouth before I kept moving on to something else when we were talking about Steve Sarkisian being the offensive Will Muschamp. Like when I said some guys were born to be coordinator, Will Muschamp, perfect example. Maybe the best defensive coordinator in the country, not a head coach.
No, not at all. And why South Carolina hired him? I'm like, do you not see like there's literal precedent. Why did you hire him? And then, of course, he gets fired. And then I warned Florida fans. I'm like, I have no idea why you're extending Dan Mullen. You had one of the best offenses you've had in over a decade, and you did not get to 10 wins. Look at the bowl game. That is your team. That is going to be your season. They didn't believe me. That's exactly what happened. Boom, Dan Mullen fired. I don't understand people sometimes.
That was one of the weirdest seasons I've ever witnessed out of a team because so if you think about this, especially considering what Georgia just showed us last year and what they accomplished. If you would say, and that Georgia beat Florida however many years in a row before that season, if you said in one season, Florida's going to beat Georgia, they're going to win the East, go to the SEC championship game. In the SEC championship game, they're going to give Alabama arguably its toughest game of the season. They're going to do all those things in the same season. You'd be like, that's an amazing season. Dan Mullen's done a great job. Oh, no. In the same season, he has a player flip out, do something stupid, throw a shoe against LSU, which prohibits them from having a shot at going to the playoff. He runs out onto the field and acts like a fool in the Missouri game at halftime. Remember that?
Yep.
And, basically spurs on a fight. He shows up in a Darth Vader costume. They lose against Texas A&M, and he makes an excuse that the crowd noise was too much, even though there were like 18,000 people there because it was the COVID season.
Yep.
And then he makes a complete embarrassment out of the Cotton Bowl. My example there, DVD, is Dan Mullen. Look at what Mac Brown did the same season. Mac Brown had his two best running backs sit out the Orange Bowl, his two best wide receivers, and his best defensive player. He kept his mouth shut, coached his team. They went down there. They fought to the end. They took Texas A&M to a one-score game. Sure, they lost the game, but they even get more respect by people that know college football, knowing, okay, North Carolina played without two best receivers, two best running backs, best defensive player, and they went down there like a class act, and they fought. They played hard, and they fought and played a good team down to the wire. You basically gave your team the message, oh, we're not the same team because we don't have these players, so we're not going to try, and we're not going to put – and then you get embarrassed. You look –
and you embarrass yourself.
Yes, you embarrass yourself because no. He detached himself from his players, from the guys wearing that uniform, saying basically, oh, this is not the Florida football team. Like, hell, it's not the Florida football team. You recruited those guys. You signed them. They play for you. What kind of insult is that to them that, these are the same guys lifting weights and running and watching film and doing all those things to play for you, and you're distancing yourself from your own team and saying, yeah, we're checking out. We're not playing hard. It was just an embarrassment. Yeah, just awful.
Yeah, I warned him. I said, why you're extending this guy, I don't know. You're going to be eating a lot of money. They didn't listen. What can you do, buddy? Well, go have fun on your 9 o'clock show, buddy. I don't want to run you over on that, but I appreciate your analysis, and I agree with you 100% on Dan Mullen, a.k.a. the Florida Clown.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
You too, buddy. Have a good show, man. I'll talk to you sometime tomorrow.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
No problem. The great Mark Rogers. That's right. We do shows together, and he is definitely the leader of this. And here's try to think of it this way. All right. So this is me. I'm trying to explain my situation. Okay. So you're a person that's interested in starting a YouTube channel, right? You're thinking about it. You love college football, but you don't know the first thing about YouTube. You don't know the first thing about anything. And finally, your brother talks you into it. Hey, this is how you set up. This is a mic, shows you how to set it up at least. And you start making videos. A year later, you're starting to have fun. You're starting to get into it. About 2 years into it, you've known about Mark Rogers this whole time, but because of a person that you brought on board, aka Joey knew Mark Rogers, and then all of a sudden you start working with Mark Rogers doing live shows like this. Like it went from 0 to 100 just like that. So I said that to say this: if anybody out there is on the fence, you're not sure, you want to, but you're not sure if you want to start a YouTube channel of any sort. Could be college football, could be music, could be movie critiquing, whatever. On the fence, you'll never know unless you try it. It's better to try and fail than to have never tried at all. I'm telling you, you never know the possibilities until it actually happens. So I greatly appreciate Mark Rogers taking a chance on me and allowing me to work with him. Hopefully it's paying off for him. I'm having a good time. It looks like he's having a good time. So it looks like it's paid off somewhat for him. But man, this is a blast. This whole college football sports YouTube community is just amazing. It's a lot closer than you actually realize. Quick update on the score. It looks like it is 14-7 with 1:04 left. I think UCF has the ball, and it's 4th and 8. I'm not sure if they're going to go for it or not. We will see. But their offense has actually struggled just a little bit. Just a little bit. AJ Padana, sorry, I didn't get to your super chat sooner, said Matthew McConaughey might be their only hope. Talking about Texas. You might be right. He might be, taking some courses or shadowing somebody as we speak. And trying to figure out how to, get the hang of coaching. Maybe he's coaching a high school team and we don't know it. And eventually he's going to make that step. So, we joke about it, but you got to start somewhere. And maybe, and we know he's a diehard Texas fan. We know that for sure. He's almost at every Texas game every year. Definitely every home game. I'm not sure about road games, most of them. You never know. You never know what's in the cards. So I think that would actually be cool. And it can't be any worse than what they've had over the past decade or so. Texas has been a freaking train wreck. It looks like UCF, did they punt or did they not get it? All I know is that Louisville has the ball with 55 seconds left. So they got a little bit of time. Maybe they can get into field goal range. Oh, they punted it because it's deep in Louisville's territory. Yikes. How many's watching Louisville at UCF? This is a pretty good game. I actually thought UCF would be much further ahead at this point, but Louisville's staying in the game. Something's just been off with UCF's passing game for the most part. The run game's still okay. Tomorrow. So we talked about Alabama at Texas, and me and Mark agreed we're giving them zero chance. And I think all this has come together because of bad decisions made by Texas. I was a little surprised at how much he agreed with me about Texas firing Tom Herman and bringing on Steve Sarkisian, but it really does make sense. And Tom Herman actually had Texas head in the right direction. All the excuses were he didn't treat his players right. He wasn't a player's coach. His attitude, blah, blah, blah. And I never saw anything on social media or any news outlet to point in that direction. I honestly think he didn't do anything wrong. Just like Mark added, they were one play away from getting to the Big 12 championship versus Iowa State, and they were just a little shy. Going 7-3 and getting fired, that makes no sense, especially that. Or maybe if you've been coaching like 20 years at Texas and it's just been, 7, well, that's COVID year, but it's been like, I don't know, 9-3, 8-4 over the past 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. And they're like, okay, we're ready to take the next step. And you're not the guy we appreciate you getting us here, but we're pretty sure that you're not the coach to get us there. That's the only time that I can see that acceptable. Firing Tom Herman was just absolutely stupid. And bringing in Steve Sarkisian made that decision even more stupid. Now, if they were able to swindle in Dabo Swinney or Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, then I'd be like, that great fire. That is a great fire. Went out and got the best coach you could get. But they went out and got Steve Sarkisian, which made that decision even worse. Like, what? I can't even imagine how frustrated Texas fans are. Us West Virginia fans, we're frustrated right now, okay? And most people are like, why? The most you should expect is 7-5, and that's probably what you're going to go. We shouldn't have to expect 7-5, 8-4 seasons as our best. West Virginia, before Dana Holgorsen, had some elite years. Even under Don Nehlen, we had some elite years. We got to a national championship in 88, undefeated season. Undefeated season in 93 with a chance to play for a share of a national championship. 96, we were on our way to an undefeated season until that stupid block punt. Miami scored the touchdown to knock that season sideways. We ended up finishing, I think, 9-3, something like that. And then 2007, of course, one game away from getting to the national championship, and most people think that West Virginia would have won it. 2006, one loss, Sugar Bowl win over Georgia. Of course, 2007, no, we missed the national championship, but we got to the Fiesta Bowl, whooped Oklahoma. 2011, the first year of Dana Holgorsen, because of all the talent that was stockpiled, we got to the Orange Bowl and whooped Clemson. But since then, we've been the land of mediocrity, and now everybody thinks that West Virginia's best is mediocre. That's what happens when you make a bad hire. When you make a bad hire, people forget about the success before, and they're like, well, they're just mediocre now. That's their standard. The best you can do is 7-5 or 8-4. No, it's not. It's just we were set back a decade. We were set back a decade by Dana Holgorsen, and maybe Neil Brown isn't the answer, and hopefully if he's not, we fire him sooner rather than later, just like we should have done with Dana Holgorsen. We kept his rear end around way too long, so if Neil Brown is not the answer, it's time to move on from him, and this is the season to prove it. And no, Dana Holgorsen is not a better coach than Neil Brown. And I'm not calling Neil Brown a good coach. I'm calling both of them mediocre. In year 3, Dana Holgorsen went 4-8, lost to Kansas. In year 3, Neil Brown went 6-6 and lost to Minnesota in a bowl game. Yeah, they're both mediocre at best. Mediocre at best. That's it. Neither one of them are very good. So, me saying that Neil Brown is better than Dana Holgorsen, that's not me saying that Neil Brown's good. So far, so not good. I'm just saying they're both not good. And if that's the case, then hopefully we move on from Neil Brown as quickly as possible, just like we should have done with Dana Holgorsen. I love how people try to twist that and say, so you're saying that Neil Brown is a better head coach and you should keep him a while and he's the answer. No, that's not what I said. What I'm saying is we should have fired Dana Holgorsen after year 4 or 5. And if Neil Brown does the same thing, we should fire him after year 4 and 5 instead of setting our program back another 10 years. Now, if he is the answer and he does turn around this year, that's fine. But this is the year to prove it. This is the year. Don't do like we did with Dana Holgorsen and give him 10 years to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. 0 conference championships. 1 10-win season. That's nothing. That is not a good head coach. I don't care who you are. Okay? Not. And people like to point to, well, Daniel Holgorsen, he went 12-2 last year. Go look at Houston's schedule. They got crushed by Texas Tech in the first game. And then they beat an SMU. They beat an East Carolina. They beat a Navy. Memphis. That's a really good win right there. Any decent team that they played, because they were able to avoid UCF and Cincinnati, they got crushed. Texas Tech crushed them. Cincinnati crushed them. Oh, Auburn in the bowl game. That's a good win, right? Are you kidding me? Are you talking about the same Auburn that went 6-6 and got beat by South Carolina? That Auburn? Guys. See, and that's that was worst case scenario for me last year. Dana Holgorsen going 12-2, and people will say, "Oh, see, he went on to Houston. You got rid of the better coach." All it takes is for a coach to go from a Power 5 to a Group of 5, and they have like a 12-2 season playing a bunch of nobodies. You got rid of a good coach. Got rid of a good coach, didn't you? That's all it takes, guys. That's all it takes. No. And whenever Houston makes the jump to the Big 12, he's going to do the same stuff that he did at West Virginia, and actually the same stuff that he's doing at Houston, because the one Big 12 team that he played last year, and I think it was a neutral field actually last year, got smashed. This year it's on the road to Texas Tech. Guess what? Gonna get smashed. He has a very difficult time of beating Texas Tech. In fact, I remember we needed a heroic last-second kick on the road to Texas Tech one year, and we were up big. I mean, we were up by like 4 touchdowns, and Texas Tech came roaring back, and I thought we were going to lose that game. But we did hit a game-winning field goal, but for whatever reason, Dana Holgorsen, his curse, whatever it is Texas Tech. So Texas Tech is going to smash Houston again tomorrow, because for whatever reason, Dana Holgorsen doesn't know how to game plan against mighty Texas Tech. Looks like it's halftime, 14-7. Closer game than what I was expecting. Much closer. But I'm going to head out of here, guys. Hopefully y'all had a good time. I had a great time. College football, week 2. If you weren't fully awake and realized that the college football season is here, you need to realize it now, because week 2 is now. And if you haven't fully absorbed it and embraced it, you're going to be halfway through the season before you finally realize what's going on, and boom, it's going to be gone. College football season goes by really, really fast, guys. So every single week, you need to soak it in, savor it. It's one of the fastest seasons. I mean, it's kind of in connection with, the holiday season. You know how fast the holiday season goes as well. So just take it like that. Every game you can watch, because I'm telling you, whenever the season is over, you're like, man, why didn't I watch more games? Hey, if you have the ability of watching a Tuesday night game, watch it. Maction, watch it. Thursday night game, watch it. Friday night game right now, watch it. Okay. Otherwise, you're gonna be regretting it at the end of the year. All right. Anyways, y'all have a fantastic, wonderful college football weekend. Not everybody's going to win. There are some losers. So if your team loses, I'll be doing live shows so you can rant. Come to my live show and get it out of your system. Let it out. It's not good to bottle things up. So if your team does lose and you're really, really mad, come and vent on me. I'm perfectly fine with that. But if your team does win, hey, come and celebrate. Either way, it's a win-win for you as far as the live show goes. Appreciate everybody that stopped by, everybody that super chats. You guys help support the channel financially. That support is can't be even measured because this is what we do full time now. This is our job. So without you supporting the channel, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we greatly appreciate that. Everybody that hit the like button on the way out, make sure to hit the like button. It still helps the video, even though it won't be live. So make sure just do a quick, click, hit the like button. You're good to go. Other than that, happy week 2, everybody. Enjoy your college football weekend.